We often think of evaluation as something that occurs at the end of a program. It's the data we use for our final report and the briefing for the donor or government partner. But evaluation should begin much, much earlier, in the planning stage. Karen Greiner, a C4D specialist working on polio communication in UNICEF Chad, argues that we should be thinking of prototypes rather than pre-tests, and that we should be discussing not only what works, but what doesn't, the ideas that fail.
I like this idea of failure. I think we should talk about it more. I think the world of, a place I've learned a lot of lessons from has been the world of design, human-centered design in particular. And one of the mottos that I think it's Tim Brown, who's a partner at IDEO in Palo Alto. He's got a book called Change by Design, and he talks about this idea of failing sooner and learning from failure. And I think there's a lot we could learn from that. And I think increasingly as communicators, if we could think maybe less about pre-testing and more about prototyping, so that we can fail sooner or find out what works, what doesn't, and adapt, it would be a good idea. And the difference I see between pre-testing and prototyping is that pre-testing is farther down the line. And what I think of most people pre-test are posters and things that are pretty far, they've already been mostly baked, and therefore you're reacting to this word or that color rather than should this even be a poster at all? Whereas I think with prototyping, your things are less developed, and you might have a range of different things, and you're kind of having people react to them and give input. So I think that I'm not saying we should be encouraged to fail, but I think that we should try and adopt a different attitude towards failure. And if we can realize that it's part of the process, then we can also learn to share failures. And it's something that doesn't happen a lot because in most worlds, we talk about best practices, promising practices, or, published articles of things that worked, evidence-based practice or practice-based evidence, but we don't talk about what didn't work. And yeah, I don't know. I do think we can learn a lot from failure, but because I just do think we need to think about trying to fail sooner. I can't stress enough. I think we oftentimes spend a lot of money and effort, and we don't measure early enough.